Hi everyone, this is Winnie or Miss Tang. Today we are learning to write the third complication or the climax of our story. This is the most intense moment of our narrative. This is because the climax is when our protagonist, our main character, must confront the opposing force. So it could be the antagonist or the villain of the story. They are going to resolve this main conflict once and for all. It is showtime. The protagonist usually makes a critical decision and or takes an action to finally resolve this problem, and they must face the opposing force on their own. Our success criteria for today includes being able to describe the protagonist confronting the opposing force on their own, being able to describe our protagonist making a critical decision to resolve the problem, and doing this by using adjectives to build vivid descriptions, including verbs, adverbs, adverbial phrases to provide our audience with more information, and to also help our readers visualize what is happening in our story by using figurative language such as similes, metaphors, and or personification. In our previous videos, we have already planned for our story, so we are going to pull up our planning now so we can refer back to it and have a look at what we are going to write today. We have also already written our orientation part 1, part 2, as well as our first 2 complications. At the end of this video, I'm going to give you a challenge. The challenge is to figure out the difference between what a good, great, amazing, and fabulous complication looks like. And fun fact, this story that I am writing is actually the prequel to the book that my friend and I wrote, the Pollution Monster series. I've used this character Amber from our book called Amber and the Pesky Plastic Problem. The very first thing we are going to do is we will need to describe our protagonist confronting the opposing force on their own. So we know that Amber is going to have to confront Viviana. Now in our last complication, Amber was amazing at standing up for someone else, for Elizabeth, but now can she stand up on her own? So we are going to set the scene now. Amber has inadvertently made a wish that she never ever wants Viviana to come back, so obviously her wish is going to have some consequences. So we are going to describe what's going to happen next and where they are. The chaotic cats were squashed like sardines against the white sterile walls of the Bubbleville Hospital, trying not to get their pom-poms in the way of the nurses and doctors rushing around. Amber stared down at her white cheer shoes, her palms sweating. She wiped her hands on her black cheer shorts. Was her ring really magic? Did Amber make this happen? Was it her fault? There was no way that magic was real, was it? On the off chance that magic was real, Amber wished really hard for Viviana to get better. As the nurse ushered Mrs. Robinson and the team into Viviana's room, Amber saw rows and rows of flowers, cards, and gift bags cluttered on the bed, table, and windowsill. Viviana was grinning from ear to ear, glowing from the amount of visitors gathered around her. She gestured her hands wildly around as she told them how a bike rider crashed into her. Viviana proudly showed off the cast on her arm and leg, demanding everyone to pick a spot and sign. She was the queen and they were her subjects. So as we're setting the scene, we have used a whole range of adjectives, verbs, adverbs, and adverbial phrases, as well as figurative language like similes and metaphors. And you can do this in your own narrative to give the audience an idea of what this scene is like and be able to visualize what is happening in their head. Now we know that Viviana isn't going to stop unless something happens. So we are going to be leading up to that moment now where Viviana will make some sort of comment and Amber will need to make that decision to try to resolve the problem. Slowly, the room emptied as the permanent marker was passed around. Elizabeth and Amber were the only ones left. Amber took a marker and started writing a positive message on Viviana's leg cast. It was already singing Viviana's praises. Viviana stroked her lily petals like a cat. "So, when are you going to quit the team, Amber?" she asked, smirking. Amber paused mid-sentence and slowly looked up with a frown on her face. The hairs on her arm rose. All right, here we go. So this is now the moment where Amber will need to make a decision and decide how she is going to resolve this problem of Viviana always making these comments towards her. And she's going to have to do it on her own because no one else is in that room except for her and Elizabeth. Then she, or Amber, roughly crossed out the message she was about to write, leaving thick, angry black lines along Viviana's leg. "Hey, you're ruining my cast," whined Viviana. Amber stood up, crossed her arms, and narrowed her eyes at Viviana. "You know what? I won't be leaving a nice message. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it. You have been directing nasty comments at me all year. Comments about how I look, comments about my cheerleading skills, comments about helping me. Stop putting me down, Viviana. It makes you a bully." "Oh, I'm not," sputtered an offended Viviana. "Oh, you are. You are a bully, Viviana. You make snide mean comments when you think no one is listening and then compliment someone else straight after to cover it up. School captains are supposed to be role models. School captains are supposed to be respectful. So are cheer captains. I will be going for the cheerleading captain position. I work hard, I'm a great cheerleader, and I think I would be a good role model. So I will be nominating myself." Elizabeth pumped a fist up in the air and cried, "Yeah, and I will be voting for Amber." Amber widened her stance, put her hands on her hips, and lifted her chin. "I will be telling my dad and Mrs. Robinson the nasty comments you have been saying to me this year. I am sure there will be witnesses to back me up," assured Amber. Elizabeth nodded swiftly. "We all heard." Viviana's ears turned red, and a flush crept across her cheeks. Amber leaned her face over the bed rails until they were nose to nose. Viviana sunk deeper into the pillows. "Your words can either lift someone up or cut deeper than a knife. I hope you choose better next time," said Amber before striding out of the room with Elizabeth in tow. Yay! So now Amber has finally learned to stand up for herself. She wasn't able to do that in the beginning, but you can see that she has grown. She has been able to stand up for her friend, and now she has been able to stand up for herself because we know that Viviana is going to keep making these comments and she is not going to be the one who will change. So Amber has to do something about this obstacle, this problem that she has to face. And now she is a lot more confident and she can stand up to her bully. Now we have written the climax. How is this going to end? So we've already described our protagonist confronting this opposing force on her own. She did it by herself. We have also described her making that decision to finally stand up for herself. And we've also made sure we included some adjectives, verbs, adverbs, adverbial phrases, and some figurative language such as similes, metaphors, and personification. And this will then lead us into our resolution. So how is this going to end? How are we going to resolve and what's going to happen next? After we write our resolution, we are also going to write a cliffhanger to leave our audience in a bit of suspense. Okay, are you ready for the challenge? Here we have the good example. Then we have what a great one looks like. And then we've got amazing and fabulous. I will also be sharing my ultimate guide to narrative writing in the description box below. So I will leave a link there when it is ready for you to download. Up next, we will be writing the resolution as well as our cliffhanger. See you in my next video. Bye!